Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Wednesday, all of our guests today brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. Before we get to Farhan, do we have that tweet from the Vancouver Canucks? Your Vancouver Canucks? All right, take your time. There you go. Metallic blue debut. Oh, we thought this wasn't going to happen, but tonight will mark the first. This is from the Canucks. Tonight will mark the first of 2 games this season where your Canucks will wear the shiny new bucket. The helmets will then be sold at auction to benefit Canucks for Kids Fund. Stay tuned for more. I talked earlier when I was criticizing the helmets. You know, when are they, they're not selling these, are they? Well, they are selling it. They're up for auction for charity, and that makes a whole lot of sense.
That's a good idea.
But again, I just wouldn't mess with the uniform, wouldn't mess with karma because, as you know, things are looking pretty good for the Canucks right now. Speaking of looking good, he joins us now from TSN. He's at Rogers Arena. Farhan Lalji, how are you, sir?
Good, buddy. I wanted to turn around just so you can see the chrome helmets or metallic or whatever they're calling them. I like them. I like the extra shine.
Yeah, I'm a fan of not messing with karma, but if the helmets are being auctioned off for charity, that takes it to a whole new level. So I guess it would be thumbs up. Hey, Farhan, any chance that Andrei Kuzmenko, given what happened against Chicago, any chance? Good camera work, by the way. Any chance that he's getting what Rick Tocchet wants from him?
Well, I mean, he played better against Chicago. Unfortunately, they were in a situation in that game where they could just roll lines and not worry about it too much, right? You know, they were up 2-0 early, and it certainly looked like the game wasn't going to get closer, even though they did have a bit of a lull. But, you know, I think in terms of Kuzmenko, let's start with doing what he does well, right? And that's in the offensive end. And you know this. If a guy is producing at a high level, you're probably willing to live with some warts, and you'll manage how you use him and things like that. And I really like the way that he was skating in that game against Chicago. And if he can play with that kind of effort and that jump, he even had the move he tried between the legs. That's a confident move that a player that's been struggling the way he has generally doesn't have that level of confidence. So I think if they can just see him skate the way that he can, and they can see him do some of those things, and then defensively, as long as the awareness, or not the awareness, but the effort is there, you'll live with some awareness mistakes from time to time. So I think for me, I think if he can just start doing what he does well, we saw a lot of pressure shifts in the Chicago end with that line. And there have been games where you wondered if they were even playing. So I think it was a step in a positive direction. And he gave him a regular shift, rolled him out there for more time than what we've seen. So hopefully he can build off that a little bit.
Where are you headed to this weekend? NFL playoffs.
San Francisco, I leave Friday. It should be a good game. Lions and Niners.
Yeah.
Who do you like there?
Well, let me ask you this. You're the football expert. I'll say I want the Lions because, you know, I like to see teams win a Super Bowl that have never won a Super Bowl. So we'll go Detroit Lions, but I think the Niners win. Any chance, Farhan, that you think that the scare put in to the Niners by the Packers will help San Francisco?
Yeah, I think it will. And, you know, you get a lot of teams in every league, really, that when you go on a championship run, you talk about that one game or that one series that scared the life out of you and really got your focus and attention the rest of the way. And maybe that did. I mean, San Francisco was absolutely fortunate to beat Green Bay. The Packers were better for 55 minutes of that game. And it wasn't until the final drive where Brock Purdy played his best football. And on the final throw, Jordan Love probably played his worst football, right? So they were very fortunate. You know, you look at that San Francisco team, and they're a complete team. I don't think Purdy's going to have that kind of performance again. The weather's expected to be good. So, you know, he's had a couple of tough rain games. Big question for them is going to be Deebo Samuel, because when you look at their offense when Deebo's playing versus when he's not, it's completely different. But Detroit has got an incredible amount of karma, as you like to say, and confidence. This team believes they can be giant killers and knock everybody off. I think Jared Goff, going back to his hometown, you're going to get the best version of Jared Goff. And, you know, the way they've been running the ball, they could do similar things to what the Packers did in terms of shortening the game, right, and just keeping that offense off the field. So, you know, the spread is a little wider than I think it should be. I think Detroit absolutely has a chance to win this game, but I'm also picking the Niners.
Boy, you know what's just as fun watching is where some of these legendary coaches are going to end up. You got Harbaugh, Carroll, Belichick, Seahawks looking. Give us an update on where you think some of these coaches might end up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Harbaugh to LA thing is going to happen, right? I talked to somebody with the Chargers yesterday, and was told that, in terms of a selection, it's basically a done deal. They're just trying to figure out power structure and a number of other things outside of actual terms of a contract, right? So you have to believe that's going to get done. I was interested to see that Pete Carroll was trying to make a bit of a late push for the job. It probably is a little too late for that. But, I'm glad to see that Pete still wants to coach and that he's still got the fire in him. And I think some of these teams, the NFL regulations on when you can fully interview certain people that are still playing, it's really, really lengthened out the process. I hope they can figure out a better solution than what's happening now. You're seeing teams, interview 14, 15 candidates for these jobs, which is probably a little bit excessive. And does it surprise you that there's not a lot of teams talking about Belichick, right? I mean, I think Atlanta potentially is the front runner there, but they might be the only runner, right? I don't know that there's going to be a lot of other teams that have an interest in a 72-year-old guy that could potentially be hard to work with and is going to want full control. So, even though he's the GOAT. So we'll see where that goes. And, and if you're somebody like Carroll, being 72, you probably feel like you can do this and you don't necessarily have a lot of time, right? So you don't want to go into a situation where you've got to draft a quarterback and start building from there and go into a 5-year process because you're not getting any younger, right? So I haven't heard Pete Carroll's name tied to other job openings other than the Chargers. But, like I said, I'm glad to see that he still wants to continue to coach.
All right, back to the Canucks. Carson Soucy, you know what? He's going to be out 5 to 6 weeks. Looks like a broken knuckle, and they're kind of hoping right now there's no surgery. That decision hasn't been made yet. But look ahead to the trade deadline. With the Soucy injury, I'm going to guess maybe the Canucks now start to get active and look for a defenseman.
Yeah, you're right. I still think that's secondary on their list. And when you look at the timing of it all, again, if it doesn't need surgery, he should be back right around the trade deadline. And I know that Rutherford generally tries to jump the gun on the deadline, which is generally good management and good process. So we'll see how aggressive they get. I like what Noah Juulsen's done. And even in the case of Soucy, after the first injury was a lot better than he was before the first injury. So, he's been an important part of this team, especially in the PK. So unfortunate for him that he's having to go through this, but Juulsen's playing well, and I think we'll get back into a groove and comfortable again. But, you want to have depth. I still think a top 6 forward is the bigger priority for this team. What's the more expensive ask? I don't know, but whether or not you want a second-line center so that you can keep the Lotto line together, or whether you want a second-line winger, knowing you're going to split up the Lotto line and have Pettersson and Miller both play center, I think that's where their priority should be. You want to get better there. And when you talk about this team, and whether or not they're a great regular season team or a great playoff team, right? Like a team that is built to have secondary scoring, which they've shown so far with their third and fourth lines, but you need it with your second line. That if all of a sudden your first line gets matched up over a 7-game series, you better have some answers. So for me, I think those answers need to come up front at this point, more so than on the back end.
Okay, so back to we're jumping all over the place here, Farhan.
That's what I do.
That's why you're here. You can do this sort of thing. You picked the 49ers. Chiefs in Baltimore also on Sunday in the AFC. Mahomes, Jackson, who do you like?
You know what? I think it's Lamar's time. And me, I love watching the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes play. I love seeing Andy Reid play call. He was the coach that saved us and got us all away from Bill Belichick. And how good was that, right? Mm-hmm. So I love seeing them do well. I know people have Chiefs fatigue. I'm not one of them. But I just think it's Lamar's time. And I think that team is, they're better at the skill positions than they've been in a while, right? So he's got more options to throw to. Mark Andrews is coming back this week. Their defense is lights out. As good as Kansas City has looked in the last playoff game, I just think it's Lamar Jackson's time. Guy's been through a lot. People question his ability to win big games in the playoffs. I think he's an exceptional player. He's going to be a worthy MVP. And regardless of who wins, I hope he has a good game. I don't want him to have to wear that he doesn't play well in the playoffs when he's needed the most. I just think he's too good for that. And I think Baltimore finds a way to win that game.
Safe travels, my friend. Thanks for this, Farhan.
All right, gents. Have fun.